I'm going to teach you how to cross-tabulate two categorical variables using Microsoft Excel. For this example, I'm going to be using the dog toys dataset, which is available on the first tab of the Visualizing Variables Week 4 Excel spreadsheet. That's available in class and also in a link in the description for this video. To make it easier to understand what we're doing with these cross-tabulation examples, for every new test that I teach you, I'm going to have a new research question. The research question that we're going to try to answer with this cross-tabulation is, what is the relationship between breed of dog and which gift toy they chose? So we have two variables in this dog toys dataset, breed of dog and toy chosen. Both of these are categorical. To create a cross-tabulation, what we are doing is starting with two categorical variables, putting one in rows and the other in columns. This creates a grid, if you will, a table in which we have a cell that represents a given breed and the toy that they chose. We're creating a table that crosses the rows and columns, hence the cross-tabulation. By looking at any particular cell, we have information about how many of a particular breed of dog chose a particular type of toy. Let's do this in Microsoft Excel. Well, here we see all of the data for the dog toys data set. We see the number of toys owned, favorite toy, breed of dog, and toy chosen. These are the two variables that we're going to use for our cross-tabulation example. Now, for each new test that I teach you, starting with cross-tabs, we're going to have a starting point in which I've simplified by bringing in only the variables that we're going to use. And you also have the ending point that shows you exactly what this is going to look like when we are finished. So let's go back to cross-tabulation, and I'm going to enlarge this data set so we can see it just a little bit better. All right. To create a cross-tabulation, we are going to use the pivot table option for Excel. Choosing a pivot table first requires that we identify the data that we're going to use. Well, fortunately, all of our data are nicely arranged next to each other, so we can click anywhere within this data set. Now we're going to go to the Insert on the ribbon and click on Pivot Table. The first thing we can do is confirm the range. It is A1 to C51. That's exactly where our data reside. And we want to put this new table in an existing worksheet. And the way to choose where it will go is to simply click on Crosstabs, cell F2. Now you can click OK. Get a brief warning that there's already some data available there. Yeah, it is. That's why I put it there. So just click OK. And here's the beginning of our pivot table. But now we need to set the pivot table fields. We're going to grab dog breed, and we're going to drag that down to rows. Then we're going to grab toy chosen, and that is going to go into the columns. The dog, which is just a random count, is what we're going to put into values. And it comes in as the sum value, which is not what we want. So we're going to change that by clicking on this gray I, the info icon, and change from sum to count. And now click OK. And now we can see our beautiful pivot table, and we can begin to answer that research question. What is the relationship between breed of dog and which gift toy they chose? And we can answer that by looking at our cross table. What we see by looking at the grand total for the rows is there were 16 Chihuahuas, 18 fuzzy dogs, and 16 retrievers. That is the grand total for breed of dog. The grand totals here for duck, hedgehog, and lamb chop tell us that these types of toys were chosen at pretty much the same rate, chosen randomly. But there may be patterns that emerge as we look at the cross tabulations. So for instance, we see that among Chihuahuas, there was a preference for the hedgehogs. Now the fuzzy dogs chose duck and lamb chop at about the same rate, but they didn't like the hedgehogs. And maybe there's a difference between the type of toy chosen for these two breeds of dog. We can see the retrievers, they're happy-go-lucky and easy to get along with, and they just chose whatever toy was most readily available. They didn't seem to have much of a preference for any particular type of toy. Now, what we can see is there are differences that may reside. Those differences may be statistically significant or not. If we want to answer a question about statistical significance, we're going to use a chi-square analysis. That will be able to tell us whether there are statistically significant differences in particular cells. We could also use that for examining differences in rows or columns. That's a topic that we're going to learn about in a later video. But for now, you have a good idea of how to create a cross-tabulation for two categorical variables using Microsoft Excel.